All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into this wild story, an incident that blew up online. It all started at an airport, but believe me, it spiraled into a massive national debate. You've got a superstar musician, two completely different stories, and yeah, some seriously high stakes. So how did this whole thing even start? Believe it or not, it all comes down to one simple object, a flask. But here's the thing. The real fight wasn't about the flask. No. It was about what everyone thought was inside it. And that one disagreement, it kicked off a crazy chain reaction that pulled in airport officials, viral videos, even the top dogs in government. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you've got to understand that we're dealing with two totally different versions of reality. It's like they're happening on parallel tracks. In one corner, you've got the official story, a major safety breach. And in the other, the artist's side, just a simple misunderstanding that got completely out of hand. And it's right in the middle of those two stories, that's where things get really, really messy. So let's break down this feud. First, we're going to look at the official story, the one coming straight from the authorities. Right, so the official line comes from two major players, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, that's FAAN, and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, the NCAA. And let me tell you, their version of events was very, very serious. And look, the accusation here is no small thing. We're not just talking about breaking a simple rule about liquids. The authorities were saying he had alcohol, that he got unruly, and then he did something that's just a huge no-go. They said he physically stood in front of the airplane on the tarmac. I mean, that's not just breaking a rule, that is a major breach of aviation safety.
But of course, that's just one side of the coin. The musicians' team, they came out with their own story, a complete counter-narrative, and they pushed back hard.
And this is where the story does a complete 180. KWM1's team is adamant. The flask? It just had water. They claim the airport staff were the ones who blew everything up, that they unnecessarily escalated it. And then they drop this bombshell claim, that airport officials actually apologized and even offered him a private jet to smooth things over. So in their version, he's not the bad guy, he's the victim. So you've got two stories, polar opposites. Who are you supposed to believe? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because this is when the third-party stuff starts to surface. We're talking eyewitnesses, cell phone videos, and this is the stuff that made the whole thing just explode online. So some of the first reports to hit the media, like this one from Sahara Reporters, were, well, they were pretty dramatic. You have an eyewitness account here that backs up the official story completely. It describes his behavior with some really strong words. Thuggish, entitled, and outrightly dangerous. This totally clashes with the idea that he was just a calm guy caught in a misunderstanding. And then came the videos. This is the exact moment the story went from a he said, she said argument to a full-blown viral sensation. Clips started popping up everywhere, and they seemed to show him, right there on the active tarmac, standing in front of the aircraft. For a lot of people watching, that visual proof seemed to lock it in. It looks like he really did obstruct the plane. So after everything came out, what did the authorities do? Their response came down to one single number. 6. As in 6 months. They hit him with a no-fly ban. Grounded. No domestic flights at all. It was a clear, decisive penalty that sent a very loud message about where they stood. You might think that's the end of the story, right? Ban issued, case closed, but nope, not even close. In fact, this is where the whole thing leveled up. It stopped being about just an airport fight and turned into a huge national debate, a proxy war for something way, way bigger. So why? Why did an entire nation get so invested in this? The answer really has almost nothing to do with what was in that flask. It has everything to do with these really deep, burning questions about power, about celebrity, and about what justice actually looks like in Nigeria today. Things got really serious the moment the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, got involved. He basically framed the whole thing as the government proving a point that the law is the law for everybody. And that idea, It really hit home with a lot of people who are, tired of feeling like celebrities get to play by different rules. And here's the kicker. KWAM is a well-known supporter of the president. So when the government came down hard on one of its own loyalists, wow, that turned this whole thing into a massive public test case for the rule of law. And the public reaction, it just split right down the middle. You had one group of people saying, finally, someone is standing up to celebrity entitlement. Then you had another group worried, thinking, is this the government going too far? And then there was everyone else, just trying to sift through the noise and figure out what actually happened. The whole country, it seemed, was having this debate.
So, you see, in the end, this was never really about one guy missing a flight. The flask, the argument on the tarmac, all of it just became a symbol. It was a stand-in for this much bigger conversation that's happening across the country.
And that brings us right back to the one powerful question that this whole saga is really about. It's the question that lit the fire online, and it's why this story is so much more than just a celebrity having a bad day. The question is this: is anyone, no matter how famous they are, no matter who they know, truly above the law? Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer.